Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome to another quick edit video with an image from the Swiss Alps. On this photo I want to apply a rather dark but natural look. That means I'm going to darken the sky a lot, bring out some details from the clouds, make the water in the foreground a little more interesting, and in general just balance the exposure. For the editing I will be using Adobe Photoshop. That means I am doing the raw adjustments in the camera raw editor, which you can see right here. But before I start, let's first take a look at the before and after images. So here we are in the camera raw editor. Let's go into the optics tab first to remove chromatic aberration and fix the lens distortion a little bit. Back to the basic stuff. For the profile I'm going with Adobe Standard. This will just reduce the contrast a bit so that I have more control over it myself. And for the white balance, right now it's a little too warm, so let's just drop the temperature until we find something that looks a little more realistic, just like this. Right away I want to slightly boost the whites. Careful to not overexpose anything. Then let's also add some vibrance. Now the base photo was already quite good exposed, so I don't really have to do anything with those basic adjustments. Instead I'm going to use local adjustments to work on certain areas like the sky. You can see I have applied 2 gradiated filters here, and as I said I want to reveal some more details here, and I'm doing this by dropping the exposure. Alright, just a little bit. Then for the next one again I'm dropping the exposure. Here we can go a little deeper. Also I can bring out those clouds by increasing the contrast and adding some clarity. Alright, and you can see this does make a huge difference already. And let's work on the water in the foreground, and there's really not much to do. I just have added a radial filter over this area to make the white water look a little more dramatic. And here again I'm just using increased clarity, some texture. I could even add some whites to make this brighter. And here we have some nice white water, and that's already it. Alright, then the color grading in the color mixer tab, I'm starting with the hue. That's because I want to get rid of all those visible green tones and make them yellow. Also I'm dropping the yellow hue slightly. And that gives me a nice balance between orange and blue tones without unnecessary other color tones. Then in the saturation tab I'm boosting orange. I'm also boosting green. This will basically result in more orange tones since we dropped the green hue, and I'm also increasing the blue saturation. And in the luminance tab I'm increasing the orange tones to make them a little brighter. Okay, nice, then let's do the split toning, and here I'm just working on the shadows. They just need a subtle blue color tone. So let's go with a blue color tone like this, and I think the saturation is quite fitting here, so let's leave it at that. Finally I'm sharpening the image. And now we can do the final adjustments inside of Photoshop. First, of course, I want to clean up the image. For this I'm using the spot healing brush. Zoom in a little bit, and then I just brush over the things I want to remove. Alright, looks clean to me. Then let's continue. First I want to work on the sky a little more and just make it more dramatic. So let's see, I could apply a levels adjustment layer, and let's drag up this left point, and this way we can give the sky some more contrast. Just like this. Of course I don't want to have it over the whole image, so I'm inverting the layer mask by hitting Ctrl I. Then I'm simply using a white brush and paint over the sky. already looks much better. Of course, I also want to apply some subtle glow to this bright part just over the mountain here. Therefore, let's create a new layer and switch the blending mode to soft light. Again, I just use the brush tool, and by holding down Alt key and clicking in this area, I can pick up this exact color tone. But first, let's also drop the opacity of the brush to not make this effect too strong. And simply brush in this area a few times to add the glow effect. To make this a little stronger, I can apply another layer and go with hard light as the blending mode. And again, just paint in a few times. I could even change the color and make it pure white. Maybe let's drop the opacity of this hard light layer. And I think something like this looks pretty nice. Then let's do some dodging and burning. For that, I'm going to use the TK panel plugin, which allows me to create luminosity masks. But first I want to merge all those layers into one layer, so I can just work on this one. And for that purpose, the TK panel offers this merge visible function. You can see the plugin just has merged all those layers into one without deleting them. So with this new layer, I'm going to duplicate it by hitting Ctrl J. On this layer, I want to specifically target the brightest parts. That means I'm applying a lights luminosity mask, just like this. You can see the white parts of the image will be affected by the changes. To create a layer mask like this, I'm checking the layer mask box and just hit the lights 2 button. Then let's apply a new layer and create a clipping layer by holding down Alt key and clicking between those two. So everything I'm doing on this layer only affects the layer directly beneath it. Here we are changing the blending mode to overlay. Again, grab the brush tool, bring back the opacity of the brush, and then make some parts a little brighter. Okay, that already helps quite a bit. I still want to make certain areas a little brighter, so I'm applying another new layer and again go with the overlay blending mode. But this time I'm not creating a clipping layer, so everything will be affected by it. That means if I'm brushing over this dark spot right here, you can see it will get brighter. Of course, this was way too heavy, so I'm dropping the brush opacity. And here you can see I can now nicely paint over everything. Alright, now I don't actually like how the sky has this blue color cast, but that's easily fixed. Let's just apply a gradient map adjustment layer. You can see it's a gradient from white to black. That means the dark parts of the image will be white, while the brightest parts of the image will be black. So if we just reverse this, we get a nice black and white image. Again, I don't want this over the whole image, just over the sky, so I'm inverting the layer mask again by hitting Ctrl I. Then I'm grabbing the brush again, set the foreground color to white. Let's increase the opacity a little bit, and then just paint over the sky. And maybe the top of those mountains. Okay, then I think I'm creating another visible layer. That means I'm merging every layer up until this point into this single layer. And I want to duplicate it again by pressing Ctrl J. Here I want to make certain dark spots a little darker. That means I'm using a dark luminosity mask, just like this for example, and let's activate the layer mask box again and apply the third darks layer mask. Again, just apply a new layer, create a clipping layer, set the blending mode to overlay, but this time instead of a white brush I'm going with a black brush to darken areas, and then just paint over a few spots here. I just want to make those mountains pop out a little more. I could even apply this on the sky and make it a little darker. Okay, nice. Then it's time to make use of the Nik Collection plugin. Again, let's create a visible layer. Actually, I think I want to make those mountains a little taller. Therefore, I'm going to edit and apply the perspective warp. And now watch this. I'm simply creating a grid. So I want to target those mountains. That's why I'm creating a grid around them. Then we need a grid for the foreground. And always make sure to connect the dots. And finally, let's also apply a grid to the sky. And once we're finished, just hit the warp button. And now we should be able to make those mountains a little larger. Just be careful to not distort the image too much. Okay, much better. But now it's really time to check the Nik collection. First off, let's apply the polarization effect. By the way, there's a gap around the image because I just have applied this warp effect. Now with the polarization effect, let's turn up the strength quite a bit and apply it like this. For the most part, this effect does look kind of strange, so I'm applying a black layer mask by holding down the Alt key and clicking the layer mask icon. Then with the white brush, I'm painting in a few areas, mainly the grass on the side of the river, just to give it a little more color, and maybe also the top part of the image. Okay, nice. Then I'm merging those two layers by selecting them and hitting Ctrl E and go to the Nik Collection plugin again. Next, I'm going to apply the tonal contrast, but first I want to reset everything to 0%. So in this case, I'm not touching the highlights, since that would just end up in overexposure. Instead, I just want to boost the midtones, which will give me some nice detail. I don't want to overdo it, so let's go with something like this. Okay. Again, I'm heading to the Nik Collection plugin. Maybe we can do something about the image warmth by using the Brilliance warmth filter and just slightly drop the warmth here. I think this will give the image a more natural look. Then finally, let's just add another filter right away. And I want to apply some glow in the sky. So let's use the classical soft focus and go with the third diffusion method. Of course, I don't want to have it over the whole image, so I'm adding a control point up in the sky. Maybe adjust the size a bit. And let's drop the opacity. Okay. And at this point, I think I'm done with the editing, so I hope this was interesting and helpful. If you have any questions left, feel free to ask in the comments, and thank you very much for watching this video.